jump in, and I'm sure Jane won't mind. Heidi and Michelle Stack are back, and they have a little stick that they would like to present. So let me, one of us, whoever's quicker, get Michelle in as a presenter.
Okay, I don't know if I've got Michelle's coordinates.
Okay,
Well, I can do it.
I'll do it. It's right here. She's in the room.
Oh, we're saying it's in the room?
Yes. Yep, I've just promoted her.
Okay, good. The power to promote and demote, eh?
Yes, it's
And
marvelous.
unmute.
From bed. Something we do.
It's kind of like
I'm lying in bed on life support.
we need to do that Michelangelo painting, you know, of Adam and God touching fingers, and just have you as one of the characters in that painting. Yes, yeah. Yes.
Hillary or Jane can point up to you, Pat.
Oh yeah, Hillary, point up to me.
No, Jane can do it.
Oh, Jane can do it. There we go.
I got that shoulder action. Oh,
Power to the people.
All right, so we're going to go to our next segment.
Before I mute, I promise I'm going to mute. Jane, you can't leave because you have to tell of your prowess at eating potato chips. Later. Go, Heidi, or go.
I got. Hi guys, I'm really happy to be here today. Michelle, can you echo? Hi, as most of you know, I'm Heidi Janz, and this is my sidekick for many, many years. Michelle Stack. And we're academics, and is this our revenge? Becoming academics? Yeah, we became academics out of revenge. Yes. We met in high school when we were giving mainstream education one last chance.
I
was pushed out of. Oh, I was in a special school. Right. I was straight from a special school. And making my way out into the real world. Before I discovered there was no such thing. And Michelle was a bad kid. And I really am a miracle worker because I made her into a saint. She became a saint just for hanging out with me. Yeah, before that, nobody wanted their children hanging out with me. Yes. but our friendship almost ended prematurely.
By death. By death.
Oh, by death. Yes.
When
Yeah.
someone just gave advantage to my mouth.
When someone stuffed an entire sandwich into my mouth. Can I defend myself at this point? Of course. Okay, of course. So be careful because I'm one of the few tabs here. Don't be intimidated because I'm one of the few tabs here. Yes. So if I may, I'm from a family of 6, and eating quickly, you either eat quickly or you don't get your share. So I thought I was being pretty damn noble because I was like, hey, I'm going to share with you, eat your sandwich or I'm going to eat it for you. Right. So, but I didn't quite understand the choking part. So I did take first aid after that. And we did have somebody work with me to teach me some basics. We survive. And we survived, and we both went on to become academics, and now we teach together. And I must say it's because of you, Heidi, that I got through high school, because when I was late for class, you'd run over my feet, which was very effective behavior modification. I was your de facto aide, so when I was late, it meant you were in a winter coat. And right. Back in the 80s, there were no educational assistants, so you were stuck with me. Not stuck, but yeah.
But
Michelle, congratulations. As of today, I'll have my queue, my place in the queue. To fast track my end, and I'm apparently next. Yes, with mental illness down the road. Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about that when we were teenagers, because I had attempted suicide, which is one of the reasons I was out of school for a while. And then we were at Alberta College together, and thinking about how often people assumed you wanted to die. And when you were in hospital, I'm like, I was the one that wanted to die, you wanted to live. But looking at it now in terms of, how glad I am that Maid wasn't there for either of us, right? And then looking at it too, just thinking about, the difference for people that are Indigenous, people that are racialized, that are poor, and what other speakers have talked about earlier, like it's not a choice. I mean, it's what I find so terrifying talking to tabs is a sort of that are involved in social justice, but yet somehow their fear of disability, they think should be able to trump the actual real evidence-based fears of disabled people.
The fear of what might happen to them was now.
Yeah, the fear, their fear of what might happen to them is putting in jeopardy your life now, right?
And I remember I was trash in my life now, where the government declared me to protect the able from the cuts up to the building.
Yeah, there was twice that you were declared to be too productive to be disabled and you were cut off disability insurance. Yeah.
On the bus,
Support. Yeah.
and then go down to my able to get back on.
And then it took such a massive effort to get back on. Yeah. And I remember the toll that had on you, right? The
I don't like some people. I'm old now. So the people coming up,
mhm.
the people that I'm gonna be like this try to I just like to know about that when they move on them.
So can I just because the memory. So I'm kind of old now, but older than me by 6 months. But the people coming up after are going to face those same and that want to go to higher education are going to face those same roadblocks. Did I get that right?
Yeah, what are the guys what do you want to do and feel it's
Mhm.
bonding with the body.
Yeah.
How many of them are going to lay or catch the cold?
Yeah. So when people aren't giving the funding to do what they want to be able to live, how many of them are going to say, screw it, I'm out of here?
Yeah, George.
Even yeah, and then it'll be it made into it's their choice. Yeah. I mean, that's the terrifying is this sort of this discourse of compassion about, like, it's just so stunning that it's made into compassion to kill people and not give them housing. There was a doc that's opposed to the legislation. I forget his name, who was saying, who works with homeless people and was saying it will get easier to get made than it would be to get somebody housing. And that's like, I think about the number of people over the years that I've tried to help with getting housing and that or get treatment or whatever. And it's the hoops and and then put into housing that's horrible. So yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, the conversations where people are saying, well, that's irrelevant. How can it not be irrelevant? How can it be deemed not relevant? I mean, it's.
I know you get many conversations with wow, you very love. Yes, the moment.
Yeah, I've had many conversations with tabs who are very much into social justice, but are pro expansion of MAID.
How
how have those discussions played out?
Yeah, I agree about that.
Talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this fear of disability, and also seeing things as static. Like when I say, well, you know, you can, like, this sort of notion that one is either disabled or a tab, or that disability is a tragedy. I mean, this is the thing that always stuns me, is that hasn't moved much. When I teach classes and I ask students, think about all the times you've heard language around disability in the last 24 hours and how, like, deaf to it, blind to it, like, you know, think about all the ways disability is used. Think about your first time you saw portrayals of disability, to get them just thinking about how embedded it is, so that when they see a kid, I'm in the faculty of education, when they see a child or an adult come into their classroom who they identify as disabled, what goes through their head before they even know that person's name. And then how does that impact the way they what their expectations are of that person. And so, and their own fears of disability, like they're taught so at such a young age. You know, it's, and then the kind of hero, I mean, you and I was looking for books on disability for a young person in my life, and just finding books that it's either the, you know, as we know, the hero narrative, like, or a child can't be just a child who is disabled. They have to be either this huge burden who has a friend who suddenly becomes an angel, which was tough on the reputation. Or gotta say, it's like, yeah, what's that? Kaboom. Yeah, I know. You destroyed my reputation as being a bad kid. I had to swear even more to try and, you know, make clear that I wasn't your friend because you were just, you know, because I was an angel. Oh, when we took French together. Oh, that's right. I dared you to say something rude to the teacher in French because I knew he'd be too gutless to ask you to repeat. And so that's why you agreed to do it, because he was really pissing you off too. Yeah, so you said something really rude to him. That's right. He did say très bien. He did. And then he was, and then I think I laughed or something. And then did I? But he was so, the whole class laughed. And then but he was too scared to kick me out because he was too scared to have you in the class alone. So yeah, poor guy. Now that I'm a teacher, I have those moments where I'm like, oh, I'm not as bad as, or I'm worse than anybody I've taught in terms of, or was. Experience. It's been an interesting experience being together. Oh yeah, when we teach together, it's really interesting. That's been something that's been fascinating. Remember, I think I told you about this, where we taught, and a student came to me after he had been a special ed director for a number of years, and he came to me, he was close to tears. This was a number of years ago when you came to my class. And he said, you know, before I met you and Heidi, he said, like, when Heidi came in, I thought, oh, Michelle's such a good Samaritan. And then by the end, to realize you were truly friends, and how horrible, like how to be seen in that way for both of you. And then he said, I realized that I recently kicked out a kid that was probably like what you were like. And I put a kid that was like Heidi, I just assumed couldn't go to, to university. And I put a kid similar, in a similar situation or similar disabilities right into, a non-academic track, even though the child did really well academically. And so he started crying and just said, I always thought I was so inclusive. But as the two of you were talking, I just realized how entrenched I am in ableism and how I saw myself as this hero. And now I'm looking at it going, oh my God, all the things that the reciprocal sort of learning I could have had, that was cut off in a sense because of ableism. And so he agreed to share with the class. And so there was a really interesting discussion about ableism and then about ableism and racism in terms of how kids are labeled in ways, in terms of how Indigenous kids are labeled and sort of assumed to be non-academic or, punitive kind of labeling that is embedded in ableism and racism. So yeah, it was a really interesting discussion. So that was one. And then when we taught this summer, the course we co-taught on technology, educational technology and disability. That was a fun course. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the students were taken aback that we were actually co-teaching. We had to work with some to make sure they addressed both of us and that they understood we were co-teachers, co-professors. That's something you really taught me too, is the whole, I generally just go by Michelle when I'm teaching, but you were talking, and it of course makes sense, that for the students to even like to see you on the same level, that you need to go by Dr. Janz, right? Because of ableism and to really, and that was something that became, I understood before, but it became so apparent when we were teaching, right? It's like, okay, I need to call you Dr. Janz, and I need to, to make this really, really clear that you're a scholar. And you had to go by Dr. Yeah. Yeah, had to go by Dr. Stack to, to try and make that. Yeah, that was a really interesting to watch, right? Is the different ways of trying to figure out how to address power and the ableism in the classroom. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and looking at like going back to MAID and looking at how entrenched ableism is and some of the assumptions, sometimes when we've co-taught, we saw it with our students, it's not that they're horrible people, but they've been conditioned. And that really, you look at policymakers that are making these decisions, and I looked at it in terms of policymakers I know, like that are on the left or progressives, and I'm like, what the, but it's that entrenched conditioning that's been so rarely challenged. And there's still so little, like when I look at the university curriculums on ableism, and you know more about this than I do, Heidi, in the health curriculum, like to think that I mean, doctors get no training on ableism. To think they're going to be have any part. Did you work at the ethics center? Yeah. Yeah, you're behind enemy lines, right? Because you work.
But look on me. Trying to flip it back on the to carve out the afternoon of
You're trying to get the medical school to carve out one afternoon for disability ethics?
And they already got like a week on me.
They've already got a week on MAID. Wow. Well, remember when you gave that talk and it was a nurse who provided MAID and she had never heard the word ableism. And she assumed you would be on the same side as her. And she was like, I came back and it's like, oh, I didn't think this would be a debate. And I'd never heard the term ableism before. You're like, oh my God. Like, sorry, I didn't get that was relatively early on. In her defense. Right. Right. And it was fairly early on in this process around it, MAID, yeah. And you've talked to her since then and she hasn't? The disability community has been talking about ableism for yeah, all through this process, yeah. And it still doesn't get in.
Yeah.
And that's like, yeah.
So yeah, Tracy here. So just butting in because I think that's my job. I just want to, is this a good place to cut you guys off?
Yeah.
Okay. Just in case you were leading up to a crescendo. I didn't want to interfere with that. So anyways, I want to thank you both for providing some additional context and doing your stick, as I was told to call it. So thank you very much. You've obviously been together for a very, very long time. So that is great. That's probably another subject we can talk about, or pairs of people who've been, in each other's lives for a long time and the different aspects that role has taken.